I'm David Fleming from Disciples Ignited, a ministry that's focused on Jesus, advancing his kingdom, and preparing his disciples. Now, today on Bible Treasures, we're going to finish up memorizing Matthew chapter 11, 28 through 30. So let's get started. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Now, today we're going to memorize the very last part. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, let's add that all together and see how well we do. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. How'd you do? I think you probably did really well. Now, today we're going to concentrate on verse 30, where Jesus said, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And it's going to help us to understand that Jesus was primarily speaking to Jews in this instance. Now, were the Jews burdened down by many things in Jesus' day? Absolutely. But the number one burden that burdened the Jews of Jesus' day was a religious one. Now, it wasn't a burden that God put upon them. It was a religious burden that the elders, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees put upon God's people. You see, the Old Testament gave God's people the laws that God wanted to be kept, show us the truth and show us the right way to live. But in order to keep God's people from breaking the law of God, the elders of the people built what they called a fence around the law. It wasn't a literal fence, but it was many laws, hundreds of laws, thousands of laws to keep us from breaking the actual law of God. There was no way that all these thousands of laws were going to be able to be kept. They were just man-made laws to begin with. And Jesus wasn't going to have it at all. And so when Jesus said in verse 30, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, he was referring to this. He was referring to all the man-made laws that these elders and these elders of the people and the Pharisees and the Sadducees had come up with. In fact, listen to this. Luke chapter 11, verse 46, Jesus replied, and you experts in the law, woe to you because you load people down with burdens that they can hardly carry, and you yourselves will not lift one finger to help them. So Jesus wasn't going to have it. He was not going to put up with all these burdens that were being dumped upon God's people. And so what did he do? He gave us his own yoke. We call it the new covenant. In fact, Jesus, on the day that he celebrated the Passover with his disciples, he said, this is the new covenant in my blood. And because Jesus fulfilled the Old Testament perfectly without sin, he has given us a new covenant. This is a covenant that is based upon God's grace and our response of faith in Jesus, where we have a relationship with God in Jesus. It's no longer religion, it's relationship. And that is the yoke that Jesus is offering you. It will bring rest to your soul. So as we look at Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, I want you to realize that Jesus is offering us a yoke, a new covenant of relationship with him that will bring rest to our souls. God bless you until we see you next time.